Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my Dark Knights. Welcome back to the NFL Week preview. This is a Week 5 preview, and this week is been thrown out of proportion again because of COVID and so many different things. But luckily, I do think we're gonna have all the games this week. We are gonna have all our games. Um, Moved around just a tiny bit. I think one's moving to Tuesday, one's moving to Monday, but we're still going to have football, which is good, which makes me happy as a fantasy owner as well, because I don't want to lose players right now. Like the fact that this whole season has just been a mess. I mean, 2020, the whole thing is 2020 has been a mess, but basically, what we're going to be doing is going through the weekly matchups like we normally do. You guys know the ding dang thing. If you guys do enjoy this series, please go ahead, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And basically, I'm going to start out talking about my Bears. My Bears did win against the Buccaneers Thursday night. And I'm very happy about that. They're 4-1. They proved to me that the offense actually moved the ball. They looked pretty decent. There was times that they do need to improve, but they looked good. They looked very good against a team that I did not think they were going to beat. And Tom Brady forgot what down it was, showing his age. And um, the Bears won. Cairo Santos, I think we finally have a kicker. Makes which sorry Eddie Pinerio, but I think we finally have our kicker in Cairo Santos, and um, Allen Robinson had another great game as well. He had 10 catches for 90 yards. He is just a machine, and if you can find a way to trade for him, you need to because this guy is going to. He's a matchup-proof guy who can put up 10, 12 points as a minimum every week. So he can do that for you on the weekly. But my Bears are 4-1. We're looking good. I think we play. I don't know who we play next week, but I'm pretty sure it is a divisional opponent. I'll look at that probably at the end of the episode. But we're going to start the weekly previews, starting off with the Eagles and the Steelers. Steelers 3-0. They should have been able to play their game last week, but they had an unexpected bye with COVID from the Titans, so they had an unexpected bye. I think this game is going to be closer than what most people think because of the Steelers having an unexpected bye. But they're going to be prepared. They're going to be more prepared, and guys like Deontay Johnson, who was hurt and dealing with injuries, he can get healthy, and a lot of their other guys can be healthy. And I think the Steelers run away with this one by at least at least two scores, I would say. But I'll give Eagles at least three. Uh, I will say that the Eagles win or Eagles lose this game. Steelers will win by 24-14. And on the Eagles side, you really don't want to start anybody on their side. Maybe Zach Ertz, but that Steelers defense is just too powerful. But if you have Miles Sanders, you have to start him. You have to start him because what he can do for you, and just obviously he's one of your top running backs you drafted. You have to start him. And on the Steelers side, I'm starting James Conner with semi confidence. The Eagles are pretty good against the run. But on the Steelers side, I love Eric Ebron in this matchup. The Eagles are one of the worst teams in the league to tight ends. And I'm starting Deontay Johnson. I'm starting Juju. Those guys are going to have good games. And Big Ben should also have a decent game as well. But I would not be amazed if this game does get tight for a good portion of it. So, moving on to the Bengals and Ravens. Bengals really they don't have a chance in this game. The Ravens are going to. It's going to be a typical division game, but I think the Ravens win this game, and I think they win it by a 28-21 victory. Lamar Jackson is hurt. He's had a knee issue in practice, but John Harbaugh came out and said he's 100%. He will play. He'll be fine. Now, if If that is the case, they may be a little cautious about having him run the ball. So you may see more passing yards and more running. So that's really good because he's one of the worst passers in the league right now with passing the ball per game. Because they run the ball so much, and maybe this is the game that you see them air it out more, and that's good news for Marquise Brown, Hollywood, and Mark Andrews as well. He had 2 scores last week. You're starting him, and of course you're starting Lamar Jackson. But the running backs for the Ravens, I don't want to touch any of them right now. Mark Ingram is interesting, but right now, like, they need to do more to show me. But on the Bengals side, Joe Burrow, obviously, you're going to start him because he's going to be behind in this game. He's got to throw. Joe Mixon, you're obviously starting him because he gave you 3 touchdowns last week. But be cautious. Be cautious because um, he's facing the Ravens. And the Ravens' defense is very good against the run. Even when they got blown out by the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, they shut down Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I don't know if is it Elair or Elair? Is it a lair or Elair? I don't know. I'm confused by the Monday Night Football guys. They were saying his name is Elair. But other than that, like T. Higgins, he's a look. He's available if you really want to look into picking up T. Higgins and starting him. AJ Green, do not start him. Do not touch him with this 6-foot pole, 39.5-foot pole, whatever it has to be. Grinch jokes aside, don't start him. Tyler Boyd is also an interesting guy as well. But this is just going to be a game where the Ravens will control the clock. The Ravens will um, meaning you see in the graphic right there, Lamar Jackson has only lost 1 game to AFC North opponents, and I think that was only the Steelers once. So he has dominated the division for at least 2 years now, and I don't think it's going to stop. Moving on to the Panthers and Falcons. Panthers at 2-2, Falcons at 0-4. I honestly think if the Falcons don't win this game, Dan Quinn is the next coach out. Bill O'Brien was let go as head coach of the Texans, so I do think that Dan Quinn's got to be next. This is a team that their defense looks like a shell of themselves. Dan Quinn's a defensive coach, and their defense looks god awful. And I think the Panthers win this. I really do, especially with Julio re-aggravated his hamstring injury. You can go and trade him. He looks like a guy that he's that AJ Green of the past, Odell Beckham Jr. now, where he's gonna have really good games like he did week 1, and then he's gonna have games where he doesn't do anything, or he's gonna struggle with health, or that's just his narrative now, and that's a shame. I did trade him for better pieces. I did get Austin Eckler, and I know he's injured for a while, but for the playoff run, that'll be really handy. And I also traded, or I could just use him as a piece to trade someone away because I'm stacked at running back, and I got A.J. Brown as well. So, I mean, at least, I got a young receiver. A lot of people said the breakout was coming. He's just dealing with injuries so far this year and COVID issues around there. So, but when he comes back, A.J. Brown will be a top 10 receiver, 100%. But anyway, back to this game. Falcons, really the only Falcon. I really don't want to. Zacchaeus is an option because he did really good the last 2 games, PPR wise. Russell Gage, maybe, especially if what's Julio is missing time, and Calvin Ridley put up a goose egg last week. Like, obviously you got to start Calvin Ridley, you have to, but if he does it again, I'd worry big time. But on the Panthers side, you're starting Teddy Bridgewater is my stream of the week, because he's playing the Falcons defense. Falcons defense is terrible, and he showed last week he can throw that football, and he's the numbers are going up each week for him. I feel like this is the week where he actually throws the ball around, has a good game, and Mike Davis, Robbie Anderson, and even DJ Moore will have good games in this as well. Now, moving on to the Jags and Texans. Texans 0-4, Jags 1-3. Um, the Jags, I believe, uh, I think the Texans are finally going to get a win. I think the Texans are going to get a win in this game, and they're going to win by a slim margin of 21-17. Gardner Minshew is a interesting start. Just be careful because the Texans defense is pretty good secondary wise for some reason. I don't know why. DJ Chark is obviously you're starting him, especially after giving him you 2 touchdowns. Bradley Roby is going to be covering him, shadow covering him. And Bradley Roby isn't the best corner, but he is a very good shadow cover corner. So just be aware of that. And James Robinson, you got to start him. Both the running backs in this matchup, I really do like. James Robinson is going to dominate the Texans front, and on the Texans side, David Johnson is going to do the same to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this is the game you finally see David Johnson run the ball, have a good game, and finally see why Billy O'Brien. Well, I mean, he's gone now, but you finally see why they did what they did, and it'll be interesting to see what goes on there from going forward. But obviously, on the Texans side, you're starting Deshaun Watson, you're starting Will Fuller. Will Fuller has been fantastic; he's their number one. Brandon Cooks, you don't want to touch him. Randall Cobb, same thing. Those are guys I don't want to touch at all. But moving on to the Raiders and Chiefs, they play at that. This game was actually up in the air about being played because of Stephon Gilmore getting COVID, and I guess they were isolating Patrick Mahomes. He couldn't even sleep with his fiance. It was a very weird week for the Chiefs, and but they are playing this game at scheduled time, which is good. And the Chiefs are not going to lose this game. I don't see it happening. They will go to 5-0. They'll struggle with the Raiders at first, I'm sure, and they will turn around and win this game at the end with a 28 to I'll say 25 score. That's pretty reasonable. I know I'm giving 25 points to the Raiders, who really haven't done much throwing the ball, but Josh Jacobs is going to have a good game in this game, 100%, because the Chiefs do not stop the run very well. They haven't all season except for that game against the Ravens. Let me correct myself. And they just gave up 100 yards to a guy they picked up off the practice squad of the Patriots. So Josh Jacobs, he's going to have a good game, especially when he's the only part of your offense that's actually doing anything in the moment for the Raiders. Other than that, you're starting Darren Waller, obviously. The Walrus, Cuckoo, Cuckoo. You're starting him, but the receivers don't want to touch them. On the Chiefs side, you can throw in Mecole Hardman as a flex. I'd be okay with that. Especially knowing, like, it looks like he's got that third receiver locked down, especially, and he's took DeMarcus Robinson's job. At least it looks like. He's put up, 2-3 weeks of really good games, so I think you can throw him in as a flex if you're in a deeper league. Obviously, you're starting the obvious ones: Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes. That's obvious. But moving on to the Cardinals and the Jets, this one is very interesting. Joe Flacco is getting the start instead of Sam Darnold. They have benched Sam Darnold, and this is a game as well. As I was talking about with Dan Quinn, same thing goes for Adam Gase. If they lose this game, I think Adam Gase is out, and that's what you want. If you're a Jets fan, you want him gone because he has been a cancer to your team. Literally, like, Le'Veon Bell is going to come back in this game. He's going to be so much better when Gase is gone. Like, I'm not starting him this week. But next week, if Gase is gone, you can start Le'Veon every week with confidence because you know he doesn't have the curse of Adam Gase on him. And, but Jamison Crowder is the only guy on the Jets I even want to moderately look at because he's the only option in that offense that you can even think about starting. but the Cardinals are going to win this game. There's no way the Jets win this game at all. But the Cardinals are going to win this game. I do think Kyler Murray does have a bounce back game. He has a better game in this game than he did in his last. And because the Jets defense is just not great when it comes to stopping the pass. And this has to be the game. Kenyon Drake, he's been terrible. If he does not perform, Chase Edmonds is a guy a lot of people are picking up. Hopefully, you guys already picked him up. But if not, pick up Chase Edmonds. It looks like Chase Edmonds could take his job if he does not perform again this week because Kenyon Drake has been terrible so far this year. It's going to happen one of two ways. They're going to incorporate Kenyon Drake more in this game, and everyone's going to be like, yes, finally. Or Chase Edmonds is going to 100% take that role, and Kenyon Drake is going to be the backup. It seems like it's leaning more towards the prior, and that's not good for Kenyon Drake owners. You drafted him in the first top 2 rounds. He has not been a good fantasy option. But if he does have a good game, and he does go off, you can try and sell high on him. You can, because, I mean, some people will just see the name and take a really good trade for that. And that's what I did with Julio, because it's the name. It's Julio. Like, someone's going to take that trade. But especially when you have a hamstring and you re-aggravate that hamstring, it's not a good sign. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, obviously you're starting DeAndre Hopkins. He's a must start as well. Other than that, Christian Kirk, all those other receivers, don't want to touch them. And you're not starting Larry Fitzgerald. You're not. I love Larry Legend, but he is done. He's just done. He's just there as an ornament at this point. Moving on to the Rams and the Washington football team. I hate calling them this. Can we please just give them a name for the love of God, please? Please just get it done. Anyway, Rams are going to win this game. They're going to bounce back from having that terrible offensive performance, but it's concerning. I think you may see a second week where they go slow again, because Washington's front seven is very good. Their secondary is surprisingly pretty decent against wide receivers in fantasy. They're not giving up a lot of points. Don't see a lot from Cooper Kupp, but you're starting him. Robert Woods is a steady floor, but only 6 catches for 35 yards. That is a little concerning. But you're starting him. I mean, it's Robert Woods. Bobby Woods is even if his floor, if that's his floor, 6 catches, like, you're fine with that. You're definitely fine with that. Granted, you like more yards, but I'm okay with that. But if you have better options, start him over Robert Woods this week. The running backs, you don't want to start any of their running backs. Jared Goff is an option possibly to look at. Tyler Higbee is a guy. Just this whole offense is a question mark, because other than Robert Woods, because Tyler Higbee going for after he got that 3 touchdown game, he hasn't done anything, and it looks like Gerald Everett's being incorporated more in the offense. Doesn't look good for my boy Higbee, but I have a feeling he will have a decent game in this game. So we'll see what happens there. And the Washington football team making a change at quarterback. Dwayne Haskins is finally not the starter, which bodes well for 2 people. And this bodes well for one person in particular that I'm very excited about, Antonio Gibson. He started incorporating him in the pass game, and I think this the week they're going to dump the ball off even more to him, and because Kyle Allen's the starter, and Kyle Allen in Charlotte, in Kansas, or not Kansas City, in the Carolina Panthers last year, dumped it off to the running back a lot. Granted, he had Chris McCaffrey, but he's going to do it to Antonio Gibson. I 100% believe that. Terry McLaurin's a must start as well. His lowest point total this year has been 11 points. You're loving that. You're loving that. I mean, that's a really good steady floor. He's a weekly starter. But that's pretty much it. I mean, you can look at the tight end Logan Thomas, but I mean, he hasn't really had a great game last week, but I mean, still, they are options. They are options, but those are the only two that I'm willing to start. And then the Dolphins and the Niners, they play as well. The Niners are going to win this game. They're going to dominate that Dolphins defense, running the ball. Throwing the ball may be an issue, but George Kittle obviously is going to be too much for them to stop. The Niners will win this game. And now on the Dolphins side, Devontae Parker is a guy you can start. Ryan Fitzpatrick is also a steady quarterback streamer. And other than that, that's it. That's really no other people I want to start on the Dolphins at all. I mean, even Myles Gaskin, he had a meh game last week, and I started him because I lost Derrick Henry. I had no choice. Should have started Antonio Gibson. Didn't think he was going to have a good game against Baltimore, but he did. Niners, on the Niners side, it looks like Raheem Mostert may be back. If he is back, Jerick McKinnon, Mostert, both of them will have value. And then, like I said earlier, Kittle. Take a look at Debo. Take a look at Debo Samuel. Watch what he does because Debo could be interesting. They're still incorporating him back in the offense, but this could be the week that you say, okay, he has a good week here. I'm going to look into starting him moving forward. So that is really all I have to say about that game. But moving on to the Giants and Cowboys. Giants 0-4, Cowboys 1-3, surprisingly. The Cowboys are bouncing back. They're getting a win in this game. 100%. I mean, it obvious. There's no way they're gonna go 4 games straight with letting an 0-4 team put up humongous points on them, especially with the Giants giving up as much points as they are. I don't see that happening. Daniel Jones, though, is a sneaky start at quarterback this week because that Cowboys defense is giving up a lot of points. Just like the Seattle's defense is giving up a lot of points, so is the Cowboys. You can start Daniel Jones. And Darius Slayton. That's the only receiver I would really start. Maybe Golden Tate if he plays. I know there was an issue with that. It looks like he is. But there was an issue with the fight. I was wondering if he would get suspended, but luckily he's not. Now on the Cowboys side, you're starting everybody. You're starting everybody in this lineup, even Michael Gallup, who has not had a decent game. You got to start Michael Gallup because they're going to dominate this secondary 100%, and it really everybody is viable in this. And Dak Prescott's going to have another great game. Granted, I don't think he's going to throw his usual 400 yards passing, but he'll have a good game. Moving on to the Colts and Browns. The Browns surprisingly 3-1, and the Colts 3-1. Not only did the Colts have the number one defense blocking the run, but they have the number one defense stopping the pass too. They're looking really, really good on defense, and I don't think that stops in this game. Colts win this game, but the fantasy options, you're not starting either quarterback. First of all, don't start P. River or Baker. But the running backs, Jonathan Taylor, I'm kind of you got to start him off of volume alone, but Browns defense is really good against the run. But Kareem Hunt gets the opportunity. Nick Chubb out. Normally, I would say don't start him against the Colts because they have dominated running backs this year. But he's a top 5 running back potential because now that Nick Chubb's down, he has the potential to be a top 5 running back. And not only does he run the ball, but he's going to catch the ball, and he's going to have fantasy value this week, and he's just going to go nuclear going here soon. He's going to just dominate. And other than that, the receivers, Mo Alley-Cox is an option, but it's a question mark because all the tight ends are back for them. You don't start T.Y. Hilton. Don't do it. He is disappointed. I think he's done as well. Odell Beckham Jr. You can start him this week. You can try. Jarvis Landry, don't start him. Anyone else in that passing offense, do not start them. And that's it for that game. And then moving on to the Sunday night game, the Vikings and the Seahawks. First of all, Um, Seahawks are going to win this game. They're going to dominate that Vikings defense, and it's going to be pathetic to watch. Um, Russell Wilson is definitely the quarterback start of the week. 100%. Chris Carson, you're starting him. Both their wide receivers. I'm even starting Greg Olsen because he had a good game last week catching the ball. And I think he'll have, because the Vikings are dead last in stopping the tight end. So guess what that means? Greg Olsen will get a touchdown in this game, maybe two. I really do believe that. And on the Vikings side, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a guy you can start him this week if you need a quarterback because Seahawks defense, like I said about the Cowboys, have given up a lot of fantasy points, and it will continue because I'm pretty sure Jamal Adams is not playing in this game. So guess what that means? More points. More points for that offense. And Dalvin Cook is a must start as well. And Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. I really do think this is going to be an offensive shootout. And like every Seattle Seahawks game, it has been this season. Except for, yeah, pretty much every one, actually. And um, Russell's going to have to cook. So that's what's going to happen. Russell will cook and win them another football game. Moving on to the Monday night doubleheader. We at 5 o'clock. Who would have thought that game would happen at 5? Broncos and the Patriots. Cam Newton will come back for this game. From the reports and different stuff like that, they're saying that Cam will be back. Cam's start if he plays. The running backs for the Patriots, I would not start them, obviously. But if Damian Harris has another good week, you could look into picking him up and flexing him. Um, the Patriots win this game, by the way, 100%. And really, wide receiver wise, the only really one that's interesting is Julian Edelman. Other than that, and that's only if Cam plays. If Cam doesn't play, none of them are. None of them are viable. Not even a one. And but on the Broncos side, Melvin Gordon is a viable option, but Philip Lindsay is supposedly coming back. So just temper your expectations a little bit. Drew Lock is supposedly coming back. How's it going to look with no Noah Fant? Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is a guy who will be. I would normally say start Broncos receivers against Patriots, but Stephon Gilmore has COVID. So guess what? He's out. He's the defensive player of the year last year. He shut down receivers so far this year. It's with him gone, Jerry Jeudy is going to be able to move the ball, and I think KJ Hamler will have some plays mixed in as well. So just be on the lookout for that. Now, the other Monday Night Football game is the Chargers and the Saints. And this game's very interesting. Justin Herbert was just announced as the starter going forward, which is good for their offense. 100% good for their offense. If you have Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, you're very, very happy about them because they're going to have much better fantasy days and much better fantasy value with Herbert. But the Saints are going to win this game. Saints are going to win this game. And I think it's going to be obviously Kamara. You're starting Kamara. Drew Brees, he's been iffy. You can start him, obviously. Michael Thomas is supposedly going to be back for this game. If he's back and he's confirmed back, you can start Drew Brees. You can start him, Michael Thomas, and Kamara. All three of those guys are good to go. That will be good. And on the Chargers side, Herbert is a good quarterback to look at as well. Going rest of the season, if you need a QB, and he wasn't afraid last week at all. I think he does the same thing in this game. He just balls out and has a good game. Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson, those two running backs are worth taking a look at. We'll not start them in this game, but they're worth taking a look at. And obviously, like I said earlier, Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry are the passing options to target to play this week. And the last game is the Bills and Titans Tuesday Night Football. Who would have thought Tuesday Night Football? Two unbeaten teams. I do believe that with everything, the mess going on with the Titans, I think they lose this game. And I think the Bills win. Obviously, on the Bills side, you're starting everybody on this offense, even Devin Singletary. Um, and on the Titans side, you got to start Tannehill. You have to start Derrick Henry. And if A.J. Brown plays, you got to start him. And Jonnu Smith, obviously, as well. But that's pretty much um, basically it. Like, we don't know what the Titans will do with anything because it's so up in the air. I mean, that game's even still up in the air yet, but it looks like they'll get that game in. But all right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. We got this in 30 minutes this time. Pretty good, pretty good. If you guys did enjoy, please go ahead, hit that like button. I greatly do appreciate it. Um, Leave a comment if you would like any fantasy start sit questions. I would love to answer those. Anything like that as well. Um, and subscribe if you're new. Subscribe if you're new and want to see more. I greatly appreciate that as well. And as always, stay awesome, my Dark Knights.